Hey guys, Kevin here for Doctor Who, Series 9, Episode 6, The Woman Who Died, and I was definitely looking forward to this episode. Last week's episode really surprised me. I did not expect to be as good as it was, and I didn't know they were going to top it this episode. Did they? No, I didn't think they topped in this episode, but this was a great character-driven episode. That's really what this was. It was a great, not really conclusion, but more of just like the aftermath of what happened next week, because I don't necessarily feel this episode is a conclusion to this story. I do feel we're going to see more of it again. Not this season, but definitely this is something that we could definitely see again. And something I really loved about this episode is that while it was a two-parter, it didn't feel like one because it's kind of just like a continuation. They did a good job of differentiating between the two, because a lot of people say Doctor Who, a lot of people could say Doctor Who's becoming very formulaic, and I would disagree. I don't think this episode was formulaic at all. In fact, I think it basically gave us everything we needed from this character, and that's something I definitely loved, and that's why I think this episode was as good as it was. But let's get into this episode because it truly was amazing, and I loved it. So, we see a masked rider known as the Nightmare, and as after some sort of amulets, and we see this woman in the carriage screams. The Doctor then enters the TARDIS in England in 1651. Huge change from last week. We were in a Viking village, and I think like the 1300s, if I remember correctly. And he's using a Curlo scanner to find a mysterious alien object, and it leads him onto the carriage. And the thief threatens the Doctor, but he continues to search for the signal the scanner's detecting. And the robber and the Doctor argue, and while they go back and forth about maybe sharing the robbery, the carriage then escapes, and the two argue for a moment more until the Doctor challenges the Nightmare to show his face, and it's revealed to be none other than Ashidihr. And obviously, the Doctor's really shocked to see Ashidihr. He didn't really think that this would happen to her. I'm sure that, and of course, he didn't expect to see her. Like, he's not there to see her. I'm sure he thought about her, but he wasn't there to see her, and I think that's really interesting. And, obviously, he never expected to, I think, come in contact with her or see her in this kind of situation. He just saw her as, like, a little girl, and that's not who she is at all, obviously. We see she's much different than that now. Because Ashley recognized the Doctor right away, which I found very interesting. The Doctor is surprised to see her in such a position, robbing a carriage and disguising, and we also realize that she has much more advanced abilities. Not only is she robbing a carriage, but because of her now being a hybrid, she can now disguise her voice, and it's just not something he's used to. It was very interesting to watch. It kind of felt like very much if, say, like, Frankenstein created the monster got, like, this whole new life and, like, started talking and things like that. That very much what this felt like. It felt like this was the Doctor's creation, and now the creation has completely just gone a different way than he thought it was going to. And in a lot of ways, Ashidihr is his creation, because he obviously saved her, and she's now a hybrid, which wasn't something he tended to do, but in a lot of ways, she really is his creation, and they very much are like father and daughter, which I think is really interesting. The Doctor mentions how the last time he saw her, she was escaping with the Hound and saying goodbyes to Gendry, but actually, you see that, she was reforming a Leaper colony, and the Doctor was proud of her, which I thought was definitely very interesting. And we realize that she doesn't really remember the Viking village and is upset by the Doctor's use of her real name. In fact, she doesn't even want to be called a real name. She wants to be called Me. That's her real name now, because every other name she has ever given has died along with the people who knew her by that name. And it's easier to be no one. I think that's really interesting. You really feel bad for her, because she's completely forgotten her life as Ashidihr, and that, just fun girl that we saw her as last week. That all of that is gone now, because not necessarily because of the Doctor. I wouldn't blame the Doctor for this, but just because of what's happened to her, and that entire life is now gone, and it's really sad, but that's what's happened to her. It's completely gone, and she is now just me. That's all she is. That's what she wants to be referred to, and I think it's really interesting. So Ashidihr recognized the Doctor, like I said, and the Doctor wasn't in, except to her, that the Doctor wasn't even there, and that's not who she is. She doesn't remember the Doctor being in the Viking village. She doesn't really remember the Viking village, and is upset by the Doctor just for her real name. But she is happy that he's there to see her, except he's not. He's saying that, oh, I'm not here to see you, and that their meeting is just purely coincidental. And she explains that she's all alone, her own companion, and it's better that way. And I think that's really interesting, the way she saw that. Just the independence that Ashidihr had here, I thought was really interesting. And they go to her mansion, and the Doctor explains what he's looking for with his scanner, and it seems like she's looking for the same thing. Inside her mansion, it's discovered that many of the adventures that Ashidihr had over the 800 years she's been around, which, yeah, it's been 800 years that she's been around here. Basically, we realize that she faked her own death as a medieval queen, and some of these are very funny, I have to say. She played a key role in the 100 Years' War. Apparently she was the one one that actually ended it. She keeps diaries to remember it all, and the doctor is very concerned with how many people she has killed. Because he knows how powerful she is now, and she acknowledges some of it, but also mentions that she has saved many, and she mostly cold and hardened by her experience, and she wants to run away from the planet with the doctor because she wants somewhere to go, and that's why she thinks the doctor's there, that he's there to take her away. And when she basically, the doctor's telling her, look, I'm not here to take you away, it's just that's not what I'm here to do. And when she leaves, the doctor then finds her first diary, and this is actually really sad. I felt really bad for Ashidihr here, because we realize that she talked about being saved, and then he finds the parts where she has fallen in love with her lover where her lover dies, and there are pages missing from some of the entries, but the worst part is that we realize that the loss of her children. She clearly had a husband, and her children died, and it's really sad. But again, that's pretty much what's happened to me. That's what she wants to be called. That's why she wants to be called me, because everyone she's cared about pretty much has died, and you really see that, and it's really sad to see. So, in the brush of a mansion, Ashidihr speaks to a mysterious creature with glowing eyes. They have a plan, and it seems like they have a much bigger plan. She's found the doctor, and they're going to find the amulet, but he can't know what she intends to use it for. So clearly she's working with the mysterious creature, which I found very interesting, and I really like seeing. That was kind of a twist that I didn't see coming, and that's something I liked about this episode, that the Ashidihr we saw last week is very different than the Ashidihr we see in this episode. So when she returns, the doctor asks why there are pages missing, and she tells him that when things get bad, she rips them out, but the doctor doesn't quite believe her. He feels like there's something more going on, and that she's lying, and she keeps the page about her children as a reminder not to have anymore, because obviously she doesn't want, you can tell that Ashidihr is clearly someone that doesn't want any emotional attachments whatsoever, and it's just, she's sick of having them. You can tell that she doesn't want them. So the doctor's truly concerned for what she's become, and desensitized to the world, because she's completely just has no emotion whatsoever. And Ashidihr isn't as bothered by it as he is. She wants to go find the amulet. They bicker about who is better at breaking into homes, and we then see the sonic sunglasses donning her nightmare persona. She tells the doctor that he is her sidekick, and they get into the mansion together and use the sunglasses to light a candle, which I think it's kind of cool how there's a new feature to the sunglasses. I like that. And I very much believe that Ashidihr is like his sidekick. I mean, we very much see that she's kind of like the doctor. They make their way down the hallway. They argue about being alone, and then the curio scanner helps them locate the Eye of Hades in an attempt to leave there. They sneak past a man sleeping, but as soon discover there's an intruder in the house, and Ashidihr wants to kill everyone and be done with it, but the doctor tries to reason with her. He just wants to do something a bit more reasonable, while she's just like, let's just kill everyone. It's a very interesting turnaround, like I said, from last week, and something that I thought was very interesting here. Just to see her be completely different, I found very fascinating. And she just wants to, kill everyone, be done with it. But the doctor's trying to reason with her that they can hide instead. And once again, bickering about who's a liability. And Ashidihr then mentions Clara. She knows that she's a weakness of the doctor. Who, by the way, we don't see Clara for most of this episode. We see her in like the last 2 minutes, and that's it. Which I found very interesting. It was cool to see the doctor have a different companion than Clara. That really was the idea of this episode, and why she wasn't there. Because obviously we weren't going to see her because of Ashidihr. Because Ashidihr would basically replace Clara in this episode. And she talks about how she's a weakness to the doctor and trying to get him to see her side of things. She asks how many Claras he has lost over time. And his look is sad, and I thought that was interesting. Ashidihr very much talked about, very much didn't care, though. You can just tell that to her, this is just someone that he's with, and that she's weakening him. And I do feel that she kind of has a point. I mean, think about last year. How many things did Clara accomplish that the doctor probably could have accomplished on his own? I mean, obviously, he wasn't as strong or powerful as he was this year, wasn't as determined as he was this year, but I do feel that had Clara not been there, I feel the doctor could have maybe solved some of those things on his own, and I think that's really interesting, the perspective that Ashidihr has. It's very interesting, and the way that this experience has just changed her whole perspective in life. So on the road back to her mansion, they are ambushed by Sam Swift, and puns are thrown, banter is deflected, and in the end, Ashidihr threatens to kill Sam, and the doctor says that if she does, she'll make an enemy of him, and I really do agree with him saying that, that's obviously, that's going to make an enemy of him, and she lets him escape, and the doctor explains that although human life is fleeting, their lives matter, even though, their human life is almost gone, they matter. And back at the mansion, the Ashidihr changes into the clothes that are more, you can definitely tell, she wants to change because people think she's a man right now, and she now wants to look more like a lady of the time. And We made her nearly deaf and blind servant that she keeps around. The doctor shares his theory about the amulet that it originates from another planet, and actually accused the doctor of getting ready to leave, and again asks him to take her too. But the doctor's staying to find out why it's here and to look after her and to figure out, what's really going on there. So she asks why he won't take her, and all he can say is that it wouldn't be good, it just wouldn't be the right thing to do. He's already ruined things for her and just feels like him going with her is not the right thing for her. And the sound of a large cat are heard, and the creature that Ashidihr was speaking to earlier is revealed, and it's some kind of alien lion man. And the whole scene is very like Beauty and the Beast-esque, and basically Ashidihr thinks she's using the creature to help her get off the planet, that the biggest hitch in the plan, that in order to help the portal, a death is required. So the doctor's merely shocked at the lengths that Ashidihr is willing to go. I mean, just the fact she's working with the creature is, again, something he never really thought of. And he's disappointed in her, and she capitalized on the fact that it's not his disappointment to have, but his failure since he caused this. And I do again see her point. He didn't have to save her. Of course, he didn't feel right with seeing a child die. Obviously, he thought of just all the people he's lost, and that's why he did it. And when Ashidihr says, "Think about all your companions," I think that really is what it is to the doctor. He was thinking, thinking of Ashidihr's. What if one of his companions died? What if Clara died? He would never feel good about himself, and he kind of took Ashidihr as one of his companions, and he's very disappointed in her, and she capitalizes on the fact it's not his disappointment, but she ties him up, and just when it seems she's going to use her helpless servant as sacrifice, two guards that enter her home to tell her that Sam Swift is headed for the gallows at noon. This works much better than harming an innocent man, so Ashidihr and the lion creature leave for the town square, and she gives up as the doctor as the knight's accomplice, and she gets out of it by bribing the guards and racing after them on horseback. And at the gallows, Sam Swift is cracking jokes. Time is running out as the clock strikes noon. Ashidihr then pays the executioner to make it a quick thing and then takes Sam Swift up in his offer to be his last kiss. And the doctor arrives just as it appears that Sam is out of jokes and joins in on the puns and banter, this time as a means of stalling him. I gotta say, Sam Swift was really funny, definitely. He uses the psychic paper to pardon Sam, but the crowd that demands someone gets hanged, and they start chanting for it to be the doctor. And in the fervor of the moment, Ashidihr grabs the amulet. I was wondering if Ashidihr was just gonna let him die. I mean, I wasn't thinking she was gonna save him at all, but she grabs the amulet, gives the crowd that they want by placing it on Sam and his life force, and opens a portal. But these things work both ways, and a bunch of spaceships from the Lion's creature planet start attacking, and I like seeing what the amulet could do. I mean, it was very interesting. I mean, it can either be your greatest strength or your biggest weakness, and in that moment, Ashidihr realizes that these people need his help, and she needs help, and that she actually cares. And I thought that was a great moment, because the entire episode, she seemed like she was just not really caring about anyone. And here, finally, she's like, you know what? I gotta help him because I care about him. And the doctor points out that the only way to stop it is to reverse it. So she used the second dosage she has been saving to close the portal. And the lion beast creature alien man is destroyed, which I thought was very interesting. And Sam survives, and they all reconvene at the local pub. And Sam thanks the doctor. He tries to make Ashidihr feel better about using that second dose of immortality. And he can't know if that's the case here, but only time will tell. And the doctor also explains why Ashidihr can't come with him, because they're the last two people that should be traveling the universe together, and she's glad for that now because perspectives on the worlds are just too different. And he mentions that he did travel with an immortal once, and while Ashidihr isn't sure and he does mention Captain Jack Harkness, who we know, of course, could eventually come back to the show, even though he had that show Torchwood, it got canceled like many years ago, and the doctor's fairly certain that he'll make his way around to her at some point, which could be very interesting. I honestly would like to see an episode where she meets Jack, falls in love with him, and they meet the doctor. I wouldn't be surprised if that happened. And it'd kind of be like the doctor reuniting with his children. He tells Ashidihr that she's an extraordinary woman. She decides their place is here on Earth, and cleaning up after the doctor. He tells her that he's glad he saved her, and she thinks that everyone will be glad for that too. And it's a really satisfying scene. I definitely really loved it. It really feels like we're going to see her again, and I really like that because I don't like it when they kill these people. I want them to leave stuff open so we can revisit that again, and that really, they really left that open here so we can see Ashidihr again, because I do want to see her again. She's a very interesting character, and very much is like a female doctor, just because of how powerful she is. It's very interesting. I can't wait to see what happens. If Missy and her ever meet, that could be very interesting if that ever happens. So, finally, we're back inside the TARDIS, and we finally see Clara again. The doctor's playing his guitar. Clara arrives. She has news about one of her students, and that knew him. Now, one of her students knew him, and we see it's a picture regarding a high scoring report, and in the background, Ashidihr is there. So Ashidihr clearly has gone to the present, and she could, for all we know, be in there, which really gets the Doctor thinking. And basically, he tells Clara that he missed her, and she promises not to go anywhere, which I thought was very interesting that she said that. He then starts up the TARDIS, and she's asking him if she's asking him if she's gonna be okay, and he's saying he is, but he has this look on his face like that might not be true, like she actually might be in danger and it might not be safe for her, which I thought was definitely very interesting. And the way we saw that, the way the episode ended, I thought was definitely very interesting. The way we saw that, and overall, I thought this, and the thing I love about that is that we know that Jenna Coleman is leaving the show after the season. So if they want to kill Clara off, I wouldn't be surprised. Honestly, I think they're gonna do it. Just the way that ends, I feel like that's saying that yeah, Clara's probably gonna die, and if she died, that would probably be the breaking point for the Doctor. It just seems like all season we're getting to that breaking point, and I definitely am interested in seeing what's gonna happen there. So I really love this episode overall. The thing with the Doctor and is this episode is that Ashidihr was very much like a female Doctor, and I definitely like seeing that. And Ashidihr is just something that he kind of regrets, but also feels like it's his advantage as well. And I think that just is very interesting. And the Doctor doesn't just worry for Clara anymore, but for who she'll be when this is all over. Definitely, he does worry for her. Obviously, he's worried about what's going to happen to her, but he's also worried about what he could do to her. He knows how powerful he is, and I just found that last scene very interesting. He doesn't know how it's going to end because he has access to the future, and he knows that the possibilities of it ending badly are high from past experience. And I just found that whole thing just very, very, very much just watch out because something very bad could happen to Clara, and I really love the way this episode ended. But overall, guys, I found this episode to be amazing. I really loved this two-parter overall, definitely. It really got into the character of Ashidihr. I think that last week she was a character, but she was even more of a character in this episode. And I'm not going to refer to her as me. I'm going to refer to her as Ashidihr, because I just feel that's her true identity, and I think she definitely is going to realize that, and especially if she does meet up with Captain Jack Harkness, that could be very interesting. I don't know if those two will ever meet up, but that could be very fascinating if they do, and something I like is that there's not really a lot resolved in this episode. Ashidir still, I think, does trust the Doctor. She trusts the Doctor more. She obviously does care for him, but the thing is with the Doctor is the fact, the thing is that the Doctor knows a lot about her and what's going to happen to her. He knows what she's been through, and it definitely left stuff open for seeing Ashidir again, which I definitely like. I don't want them to just have Ashidir on once and then get rid of her, because I think she's a much better character than that, and they could do a lot with her, and this episode really showed the possibilities of what they could do with her character, which I find very interesting. I hope we see her character again because I really love her as a character. So far, what we've seen of her, she's amazing. Now, next week's episode, I'm not really looking forward to that much, honestly. I'm not looking forward to it. As much as I want to. It kind of seems like a silly episode. It seems like a step back from these past two from this week's part cross from this week's from the past two episodes we've had. It's about like Zygons, which are like shape-shifting aliens, which could be interesting, but it just kind of seems kind of cheesy and kind of like a step back. Maybe it'll be good, but what I like the most about this episode is that Clara wasn't the companion. It was Ashley that was the companion, and Ashley telling the Doctor that Clara could be his greatest weakness, I think is honestly something to think about, because if you think about it, who is the Doctor sworn to protect? Who does the Doctor want to protect more than anyone? And who does he worry about more than anyone? Clara. I'm sure he worries about himself, but Clara is like his daughter. If anything bad were to happen to her, he would be crushed, and he would be really upset about it. And I think they really showed that very well in the scene. I think Ashidir really proved that point perfectly there, and I really do agree with what she's saying. Maisie Williams, by the way, definitely amazing performance this episode. She was fantastic. Every scene she just had down perfectly. And I really loved seeing this character of Ashidir, and I hope we see her again. Definitely. And I also liked that they did two different time periods. I don't recall them doing that in a two-parter before, but I think it's really cool that they've done that here. But Doctor Who, absolutely amazing. This, I think, two-parter really shows how strong this season really is. This really has been an incredible season, and especially these two episodes, I think have made this season even better for me. I absolutely loved both these two-parters, and I can't wait for next week. But let me know what you guys saw this episode. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was a really, really strong entry, definitely. It was very sad at points, but it was also very funny, but it really had everything I want in a Doctor Who episode. Let me know what you guys think of Clara, because I'd really love to hear your thoughts on what you think that final scene with Clara really means. In fact, I really feel it's in Clara's imminent danger, and that something bad could happen to her. But like I said, I also think it has to do with the doctor being concerned about her and kind of thinking about what's going to happen to her when she leaves the doctor, because her time's almost up. Either way, we know her time is almost up, and this is Clara's last season. Either she's going to leave or she's going to die. It's going to be one of those two things. That's what's going to happen to her, and that's inevitable. We know she's leaving, so I think that makes us very worried as well, and that's something I definitely really loved. But that's it for my review. Hope you all enjoyed. Remember, guys saw this episode, and I will see you guys in the next video, which will finally be for tonight's episode of The Nick. I have not finished watching it, but I will finish after this review, and I will see you guys for that. Okay, bye.